The Guns on Pegs podcast is brought to you by iTap Group. Hello and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast. My name is George Brown. I'm here in Hampshire.
My name's Avian. I'm here in Cornwall.
It's Jake in Suffolk.
And it's Sam down in Devon.
Hello boys, how are we doing?
Very good.
Bloody well. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Good. Well, we are recording after hours again. So in honour of that, we're going to press straight on and have a drink. Sam, you can go first. What's that you're drinking?
I've gone slightly across the border, dare I say, down into Avian country and got a St. Austell proper job.
Proper job.
Proper job.
It's a nice hoppy IPA, fresh out the fridge. And if it runs out, I have got a South African Malbec, which I'd like to say is a tribute to Marcus off the last podcast, but it was just the one in the Tesco meal deal.
That's not a bad drop, actually. That is not a bad drop. And the South African Malbec, I'm a fan of when I'm drinking.
Sorry, I get ham and cheese sandwich, hula hoops, and maybe a Costa coffee in our Tesco meal deals. I'm clearly going to the wrong Tesco's.
You want to pop this side of the border, mate? It's much better.
Got my passport now, will travel.
Yeah.
Do you not get your Devon licence revoked for drinking Cornish beer? You're going to get drummed out of the county.
Certainly hope not. If I find out that's going to happen, we'll just have to cut that bit out and I'll record that I'm drinking an otter.
Stick with a proper job, mate. Enjoy.
And Avian, what have you got?
Well, was set the challenge to try and make some cider, which I think we'll come on to in a minute. So I can firmly say I'm in the research phase at the moment. So I've got from Healy's Orchards, Cornish Gold, original Cornish cider. So we'll get this one opened. It's a 4.5%. So I think in Cornwall that would be a session cider.
That's basically water.
Pretty much, yes. Well, I thought Rattler might be a bit too much for a late night recording on a Friday. So let's give this one a go. Oh, that's quite nice. A little sweeter than...
You've obviously had a Rattler already because it's Thursday.
Oh, it is, yes. When you're retired, those days just come and go. No, that's pretty good, actually. Quite light, little sweet, tiny bit of effervescence with it, a little bit fizzy. I'm going to enjoy that. Very good.
Good. And Jake, how about you?
Well, chaps, I've just bought a horse trailer, and I can assure you I'm still not really drinking. And so after just buying a trailer for my wife, I'm on water. We needed it. Our trailer got stolen from the lockup about 18 months ago. Insurance took forever to pay out. They finally paid out. Laura's found the right one she wanted, and Mrs. Wolf has got a smile from ear to ear, but unfortunately, our bank balance now describes it as your only chap.
You're on Chateau Tap, are you?
Yeah, Chateau Tap, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ave, I'm really keen to know about the update. Have you found a rat or a badger? Where are you up to?
I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm quite keen to see what George has got in his glass.
Oh, sorry, George, I've completely gone over you, mate.
It's all right. I'm not important. It's fine.
So you've got some grapes, is it then, George?
Well, so you might recall, gents, that I have recently been on a stag do to Marbella, no less. And whilst out there, in amongst all sorts of other horrible drinks, I had an extremely good Moscow Mule, which I have decided to recreate at home.
Fantastic.
And
I haven't had one of those for ages.
Oh, my God, they're good.
They're good, aren't they?
It's tremendous. I'm very happy. I think I found a new summer drink.
Oh.
It's really good.
Can you tell someone who's never had a Moscow Mule, or certainly can't remember having a Moscow Mule, what is in a Moscow Mule?
Well, yes, they do have that effect. This is cocktail making for people who don't like making cocktails.
Yes.
It is, a double shot of vodka, some ice, a wodge of lime. Lime, and the rest is ginger beer.
And if you're feeling racy, you can add a splash of Angosturas.
Yes.
Gives it a bit of colour. The great thing with Moscow Mules is they're meant to be served in a copper cup.
Ah, yes. The recipe I read did suggest that.
Now, apparently, the reason they were served traditionally in a copper cup was, I can't remember the American barman's name who created the Moscow Mule, but legend has it his brother had cocked up an order and he had a warehouse full of copper cups.
So he just made up a rule.
They just made up a rule, do it in a copper cup and I can get rid of this warehouse full of copper cups. And that's how it happened.
Wow.
This time next year.
But yeah, Moscow mules are bloody good. They do, after 2 or 3, they do kick a bit though, George, don't they?
Yes. So, I mean, I've already nearly finished the one that I made at the start of this, so we might have to pause the recording for me to go and make another one.
Fair play.
But yeah, it's a seriously good drink. And, you know, if you're looking for a change from a G&T, it requires no extra effort compared to a G&T and is every bit, if not more, refreshing than a G&T. I approve very strongly of them.
I think that's my weekend sorted.
Yeah.
Or ruined.
Ruined, yeah, that's exactly. I think you're going to get a fair up kick, either from your wife or from the mule, but either.
Broad shoulders, Jake, broad shoulders.
So come on, give us a rat cider update.
So cider update. Like I said, I'm in the research phase, so I'm working my way through various ciders. We were getting the Miscanthus rhizomes the other day and happened purely by accident to go the back roads and drive past Sheppey cider. So in research mode again, we stopped in there for a couple. One thing that when George said last week, I'm surprised Avian doesn't make cider, caught me on the hop, and then it dawned on me, one of the reasons we don't make cider is because we're on the north coast of Cornwall and we don't actually have any trees.
Yes, that will be a challenge.
That would be a challenge. The other thing is, obviously, being early June, we don't have any apples. So what I'm going to do, and Digby, bless him, has invited me up to do a bit of exploratory cider making. I'm going to go down and see Tom at Hayward Cider Farm. So over the next few months, if I can remember what I'm doing by the time all the research is done, we should be able to stalk up to scrumping some apples in sort of end of summer, early autumn, and then get some help, get some guidance, and actually make some cider. Ideally, we get that ready for the start of the partridge season. How does that sound?
That would be phenomenal.
Sounds like a great win.
So in terms of Jake, you said how I found a rat. Well, unfortunately, you may have been aware that we had a delightful issue over Christmas that we still haven't quite finished with yet, where our furry friends got into the wall space and ate all the water pipes. So I do feel that I've got it in for Cousin Ratty. It was nearly a baby rabbit I was going to use because one of the spaniels decided to bring one in the house, and you can imagine how well that went.
Yeah.
You know, I did think of just doing it straight away and, you know, go to the homebrew shop and get a demijohn or a bucket or something and get some apple juice and just make it. But I thought, no. Let's do it properly. We don't want to muck about. So work in progress, Jake, is what I'd say.
Fantastic.
Well, that's tremendously exciting, and it's turned into a proper Challenge Avian as well, which I really like. And I'm going to add to the Challenge Avian, which is I would like, when it is ready, for you to do a deep dive into the history and traditions of cider making.
Oh.
In Cornwall.
Okay.
Because there's the culture around it is so interesting.
Yeah.
And, you know, the sharing out of the apples, or, you know, the all that stuff that goes on, and going around to each other's cider cellars. And sorry, I probably should have said cider cellars, shouldn't I?
It's Cornwall, George, not Somerset. Come on.
That was my Somerset accent. Yeah, I think it's all really interesting.
Do they have the same festival in Cornwall as they do in Somerset, where they all dance around and thank the trees?
They were sailing.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure, because cider making in Cornwall tends to be sort of mid Cornwall and the south coast. Like I said, literally because of the weather, because of the prevailing westerlies, most of the trees we have here, which the wind just bend over, and I colloquially call them Cornish bonsai. They're about 150 years old, 3 foot high, and about 40 feet long in a west to east direction.
Yeah.
But as George said, I will go and do my homework. I like a Cornish legend, so might not all be true, but I'll do my best. But obviously, you know, as you go south around St Austell and that sort of area, where Healy's are, you've got quite a few traditional cider orchards. So, you know, I will take it upon myself to go to as many cider manufacturers as possible, sample the brew and ask them. But it is purely in the name of research, I assure you.
Well, your sacrifice is...
I will.
Thank you for your service. Now, Jake, we've got a bit of correspondence, which I think you should read. So take it away, please.
Not a problem. So it reads, Dear Guns on Pegs podcast, I write to you with a most curious dilemma. Not one of gun fit, cartridge selection, or grouse direction. It is not a question of tweed breeks or trousers. Something much more vital. Meeting for a pint the day before a shoot. A small thing, you might say? I'd argue that the small things uphold great traditions. The pint before the shoot is no mere beverage. It's a nod to the sportsmen of the day gone by who raised a glass to toast and steady their nerves, or possibly inflame with a horrible hangover. It is, in its humble way, part of the architecture of a day afield, much like a well-oiled walnut, a dog with manners, like that, and that hints at rain. To duck it, I fear, is to chip away at the very culture we strive to keep alive. You see, I'm flying over from the other side of the big pond. Please don't judge me. I enjoy my tea hot and in a cup, not a harbour. Well done, like that.
Good.
And I'll soon be enjoying a sim day with the chap who's to host me for a proper day shooting this December. Hang on a minute. All very civilized, you'd think. A fine opportunity to meet, share a drink, and discuss the finer points of peg rotation and cartridge choice. Discuss all things country and possibly a time to stretch the truth about our mastery of the shotgun and general enjoying a good laugh. So imagine my horror when, upon suggesting we grab a pint the evening before and get to know one another, the reply was something along the lines of, I know what's coming. He's watching his figure. You can imagine that I was thrown from a loop. There was a further commentary sounding of lycra-clad, pain-inducing cycling regime and a Paris ride looming on the horizon. I won't name names, of course.
Jake!
Very unsporting. Now, I may not know much about power to weight ratios, but I do know that turning down a pint, especially when visiting a guest, it's a clear breach of protocol. Surely, somewhere it's written, one does not swap bitter for a bidden. I worry this signals a wider malaise. First, it's skipping the pint. Then it's oat milk in the field flask. and quinoa in the gun bus. Before you know it, a man's shooting in breathable fabrics and carrying kale in his cartridge bag. So I ask you, what is the correct etiquette here? Do I shame my host into filling his glass with a local lager? This simply does not seem a thing a gentleman should do. Or do I bring a six-pack of electrolytes and accept that Britain too is changing? Yours in both barrels and tradition. Cletus. Hopeless romantic for the tweed tradition and actual pub pints. Cletus.
I am 100% with Cletus on this, and
Yeah,
I think that said host, whoever
whoever that may be,
if they don't go for a pint with their guest, then there is potential rescinding
Cletus.
of garters.
I have just gone to the cupboard and I've pulled out a very old Thatcher's Juicy Apple Cider. And on behalf of your visit later in the year, as you can hear, a Thatcher's cider, I shall very much look forward to sharing a pint with you. But we're both cycling back to the accommodation and we'll see who falls off first. Cheers.
Well done.
Gentlemen,
Well
there
done,
is.
Jake.
There we go. The problem is, boys, I'm back.
George, do you think Guns on Pegs has got a couple of pairs of stabilisers they could pop on these bikes for the cycle trip home?
It's funny you should say that. I've just taken some stabilizers off my daughter's bicycle this evening.
Fantastic.
I'll have them.
I was going to put them on the chicken run, but
I think Jake's need is greater.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair play, and what a lovely bit of correspondence. I know the person behind this, Cletus. Very much looking forward to having you here in the summer and also in December. But chaps, the night before, having a drink, do you get stuck in and risk a hangover in the morning, or do you actually pull up and say, do you know what, lads, I'm really looking forward to shooting where we are and pay respect to your host and take it a bit easy? I mean, George, let's go with you.
Come on. You know the answer, which is I start with good intentions of going to bed early, and then I get overexcited, and then I have a hangover.
Indeed, I love it. Sam, what about you, buddy?
The whole point, or the whole reason we go, or the main reason we go shooting, I should say, is because we enjoy ourselves, be it the shooting, the company, the camaraderie, piss taking, whatever you want to do. So as long as you're enjoying yourself, let's not be silly and dangerous, obviously, but enjoy yourself. Do what makes you happy.
There we go. And Ave, what would you like to do? Are you kind of a go steady the night before? And
I think the problem is when I do like a drink, but you get to a point where you have to sort of know your foibles. So I very much enjoy the meeting up evening before, having something to drink, having a laugh, bit of leg pulling. Everyone's a bit excited for the day to come. But I do honestly try to take myself to bed, because worse than George, I know what I'm like. If I get my legs on, then I cannot be anything other than the last to bed.
Yeah.
I get terrible FOMO. I have to be there at last knocking. So if I don't spirit myself away, they'll probably find me with my pants on my head, in a bath, not able to cope, and then the whole day's ruined. So definitely beer the night before, social, all enjoy it. But for Christ's sake, don't let me carry on. Otherwise, I'll be asleep in the gun bus.
All I can say is that I've stood in many a shower at 6:30 in the morning questioning last night's decision. I've only been in bed for 2 hours. So it's good fun, but err on the side of caution. But a lot of fun. Love that bit of correspondence.
That was
I'm very
great.
much looking forward to sending the garters. So very good.
And if it ever gets to the stage of oat milk in the field and kale in the cartridge bag,
could you imagine?
I'm giving up.
Excellent. Right, well, chaps, what's been going on? What we've been up to? Sam, how's things on the farm?
Oh, good. I've been doing some more sim days with Keith at Southwest Sporting. I've been shooting a few clays down at Ashcombe as well, trying to prepare for, I know me and Avian and a few others are going to Warrington Park.
Yeah.
Charity shoot at the end of the month.
Is that GWCC one?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so doing that one. And then I think, Jake, early July, we've potentially got ourselves involved in rally clays.
We have indeed. And
so,
more to come on that.
In an attempt to not make a complete arse of myself, I've been trying to shoot as many clays as possible in preparation.
I always try to shoot as many clays as possible. It doesn't always quite go to plan. I think our Warrington Park team day at the moment is the Clay Pigeon Liberation Society. That's our working team name.
Yeah.
Good. And I think you were saying, what did I see something on Instagram? You've got new life all over the place at the moment, haven't you?
Everywhere. It's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, loads of wild roe fawns. I say loads. I've seen a couple, which is always nice to see. We got quite a lot of ducks and swans on the river, so we got ducklings and cygnets popping about. And obviously the reds have just started calving as well. So plenty of new life to probably chase around at some point.
Fantastic. And the goats behaving?
Goats are behaving at the moment. I did have a
Bloody
cow.
hell.
One of our cows got in the middle of the river the other day.
I saw that. I was going to ask, what the hell happened?
Yeah, there was a lot of them out at first, and then there was one that decided it wasn't going to come back with the rest of them. My watch actually told me I ran 9 kilometres that Saturday morning, which was nice.
Did you stay in zone 2, or did you move up your zones?
It nearly phoned an ambulance. Ended up going through the river 4 times, but got it back. So yeah, it's the cows have decided they're gonna do a bit of goat mischief.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think I'd quite like to have livestock. And then I hear stories like that, and I think, no, I think arable farming is probably much more relaxing.
I bet your wheat's never escaped, is it?
I know my grandfather always used to say to me, he said, "Boy, never put your money in anything you have to carry food and water to."
Yeah.
He still had kids, though.
Yeah, but in a Cornish farm, that's just breeding staff, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's free labour,
right.
Yeah. True enough. Jake, you've been hobnobbing.
I have actually. Yeah, I've had a really, really good month of doing some really enjoyable things, and honestly, one of the best nights I've had in a long while was when I attended recently the World Gunmakers Evening at the Savoy.
Very nice.
Really nice. Champagne was flowing, the setting was stunning, and the atmosphere had the perfect mix of heritage and high spirits, chaps. It really did. It was the first proper evening where Laura and I have actually gone out as a couple since Florence was born last August. So it was
Wow.
a really, really good. And it was just really nice to be back together, dressed up. And we really soaked it in. I mean,
Did you stay the night in London, or did you get the Vomit Comet back to East Anglia?
Very much. So how it worked was I drove in, and Laura, bless her, had already been in London that day on a Minecraft experience with Toby, ran him back out, and then like ships in the night, we passed on the M11. I parked at Stratford. Laura trained it in from Newmarket, Cambridge into London, and then from there I greeted her at the Savoy front doors. And I must admit, chaps, I do wish I could have afforded the £750 per night, but it was just wonderful. The doormen were there, and I said I'm meeting my wife, and they said if you go and stand there, and then she'll see you from the road. And it was. I'll go arguably say it was like dating for the first time again. It was so nice to spend some time with my wife. Loved it. And
Brilliant.
I'm not being soppy, but it sounds soppy. And so anyway, back to it, chaps. I'll have a slurp of the cider.
I do think, Jake, if that was your first date night since Florence joined us, you set the bar rather high, haven't you? Going straight for the Savoy.
It has.
I mean, I don't think you can get away with Wetherspoons next time, can you?
No, trust me, we're not having any more children, so we don't have to. That's the last of those firsts ever again. We are 15 years married in August, so I get to enjoy that. But I will say, no more children, I can assure you. But getting back to it, chaps, the World Gunmakers Evening was just brilliant. There were so many familiar faces, lots of great conversations. Brilliant to catch up with good old handful of Order of the Garters members there as well, which was really good. And there's just something about these gatherings, isn't it? You know, you just realize how much communities around kind of making, around being together and chatting. And yeah, it was brilliant. There was lots of stories shared, and I think everyone's getting a bit geared up for the shooting season. You know, it was really, really good. But I will just also just say a huge well done to the organisers, Gemma Smith, Lee Hurst, and all the team, the chefs, the people serving us, and what have you. Even the exhibitors really went above and beyond. I didn't get to see Ian's rifle.
Oh, was it there?
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't get 20 yards without I was talking the whole evening.
Very unlike you.
You surprised. And there was a lot of people, you know, the Purdy team were there, you know, the Holland team were there. I ordered another set of guns again.
Well, I was going to ask, did you look at a gun, or were you just gassing the whole time?
Just gassing the whole time, but I could see Andrew and his team, and I could see Luke and his team, and I kind of waved. And there was one point where I looked at the Holtz table, and Simon Reinhold was over there, and Sarah was there as well, Sarah Farnsworth, and I was like, "Hi," and they were like, "Hi," waving through the crowd, and we were just chatting. And it wasn't until the following day where we sent each other a message just saying, "I did try and say hello," and to be honest with you, Leon, Chalice Davis, and Laura and I, we just stood there chatting, laughing. The champagne had run out. And Leon said, "I ain't having that." He said, "No, I'm not having that." He said, "There's a bottle of Paul Rocher just on the side there." He said, "We'll carry on drinking that, won't we?" And it was a brilliant evening, and it just loved it. It was good fun. And then afterwards, we just slipped off to the pub just around the corner, the Colbutts. And it was really, really good. The other Order of the Garters members came, and so did a few other people and friends and what have you. Just really good to catch up. Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Great, really good. Sounds like a fantastic
George,
evening.
What is the Vomit Comet?
That is the
they have trains up there.
It's the last train out of Liverpool Street that I think finishes at King's Lynn or Norwich, one or the other.
I wouldn't want to clean it afterwards.
Yeah, I've been on it once before, and I won't be repeating it.
No, it's untidy. It's really untidy. But, you know, you say going up to Norwich and to King's Lynn and what have you, that is a nice little segue onto what else I've been doing. Because like I say, I've had a full-on month, lads, and keeping it very quick, I had a crack at what Sam just mentioned there, rally clays.
Yeah.
And this is good fun, lads.
How'd you get on?
Shit.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't press it up at all, Jake. Just tell us.
I was shockingly SHIT, chaps. I kind of turned up there, and you could just see they're like, "Oh, Jake's here. Okay, this will be good." Pulled out the old blunderbuss ATA that had just come back from being serviced. You go head to head. with another shooter, and it's very much a match style format. Those who want to find out, and I highly recommend you do, please go to YouTube and look at the videos there. But it's very much like a game of squash, backwards and forwards. You carry on shooting until a clay is missed. And then
that wouldn't take long for me.
No, nor me, I can assure you. So I went head to head.
You'll go.
It was 3 clays, lads, 3-0 loss to me. I was like, holy, that's a tenner. And so it got costly. They're shooting their rallies and they're having a great time. There was about 20 people behind us. And the enjoyment and laughter we were getting and the intensity of the rally that was building. And the winning rally was 108 clay shot for a 3-2 game.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ooh, bloody hell.
Who were the winners then? These boys can shoot.
No, they can shoot, and these are the top, like Norfolk AAAs, AA's. These boys had been over onto, been and done around the evening and what have you, and they've done a bit of sport trap and that type of stuff. So, I mean, they're, I won't name them, but they're up there in those top 20 around the country of finishing. So you've got to have some skill, but equally, I was saying to Simon afterwards, and where's the entry into this? If I turn up, I needed to warm up, and he's got so many wonderful ideas to take this format further, and it's watchable, chaps. And I highly recommend. Sam, you're right. You and I are going down to Barbary on the 12th of July. Really looking forward to that. And I actually said to Simon on Tuesday evening, I'm going to pull out from and let someone else have my place because I'm just going to mess up the 16 seeded bit. It will be over. It won't be fair. You've got to have a bit of ability. But I highly recommend if you're an average clay shot, go into the pool shoot and then go and practice on your sporting layouts, your local one, and then you can go into these competitions. It is bloody brilliant.
But it's also the case that you could potentially be an average shot, but if you can hold your nerve better in a pressure situation than a potentially better shot than you, then that's going to make an interesting rally.
100%, Sam. So there you have it. So I got a little rally going. And then you start thinking tactics. Top barrel first to load. Do you load both? Do you just shoot one? Do you try and shoot it coming out the trap? And I found that was better as an average person because I'm not foreseen to get in and I've got to swing through and I've got to take it out here. I was just shooting the thing as it was leaving the trap or shooting it off the ground. It was very much rookie errors and mistakes, but it was getting me the point. I was thinking, kind of getting ahead of the person next to me. It's a lot of fun, chaps. And
I think that's an interesting point, Jake and Sam, you make there is, a lot of the guys who are top of their game in sporting clays, they have a set routine and a pre-shot habit and they get themselves exactly where they want to be and then they call the clay. But if you're a bit quicker and you unsettle them, that can be your way in, can't it?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And we all know that the time when you are most likely to fumble your reload is when you can see the next bird coming.
Yeah. That's when everything becomes thumbs, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, it all comes out in a sequence. So it starts off at number 1, and in previous rally clays that Simon's held, he's put a massive number outside every trap. Well, on this time, no numbers were out. So anyone that was trying to read the sequence couldn't read it.
Yeah.
So you could work it out that where they were coming from, you played a few games, but you go up the sequence, so 1 to 7, then you get a pair from the 7th, both shoot that, then you work back down to 1 again. Then the button presser is allowed free range, so you can't get.
Oh wow!
So when you get 15 plays, it's up to the button presser, and it really is. I mean, it had
so basically bribe the trapper then,
big time, and with lots of banter flying. And all I would say is it's highly watchable, chaps. And I mean, if there's any internet TV producer type people listening to this episode, give Simon a call because I think it's got legs and you could probably sell a couple of seats from it and everything. It was really, really good. I can't wait to hear what you all say about it throughout the year. So I was really, really grateful to have a few moments at the end of the Rally Clays evening with Simon to get his views about how he sees it going forward and all the exciting things that Rally Clays got coming up in the future. So guys, enjoy this little bit from Simon as I ask him a few questions. Simon, good evening.
Evening.
What a great evening it's been.
It's been
amazing.
great fun. Yeah, no, it's been great fun. It's we have been very kindly hosted by Chalk Farm just outside Swaffham. They've put on a 10-trap layout for us to have two shooters going head-to-head against each other, shooting alternate targets. And the idea is as soon as you break your target, your opponent's target is launched, and they have to break it quickly, putting you back under pressure, and then yours is launched after they break theirs, and back and forth till somebody misses, and then the point is over. I mean, bit like a squash match.
Yes.
I would say tennis, but we're not standing shooting at each other. We're standing about 10 metres apart, so it is more like a squash match than a tennis match, but the principle remains the same. It's first to miss, loses the point.
It's really good. You must give it a go.
Well, Jake, sounds like you've been living high on the hog as always. So, but George, what have you been up to? I've heard you've done a thing.
I have been doing things. Earlier this week, I had a very enjoyable day's fishing on the Test with a fellow member of the Most Noble Order of the Garters. But absolutely beautiful day on this incredible bit of syndicate water that very, very few people get to fish.
Oh, wow.
And it was an absolutely magical day. It was sunny, quite breezy, but, we had a huge barbecue, drank a lot, ate a lot, did a bit of fishing.
Did you catch anything?
I didn't. There was a good hatch of mayfly, but they were not really rising until the very end of the day, and I missed a couple. I moved a couple.
Mm-hmm.
I spooked a lot. But
was it a little bit warm for daytime fishing, or
it was quite bright? Which I think probably, and I think this time of year, particularly, the mayfly have been going for a while now, and I think this time of year, particularly if there's a big spinner fall the previous evening, they're still sort of in a digestive,
don't they?
Torpor until later on in the day. But it was just a really lovely opportunity to spend time on the river and have a nice chat with some friends, and everybody else who was there caught a fish. I took probably the best photograph I'll ever take in my life of Otis playing a trout that Pete McLeod, who was our guide for the day, had hooked for him right at that golden hour. Beautiful light, just stunning. So that was fantastic. But I also want to fill you in on some chicken news. Which is that we hatched last year a load of eggs, and out of, I think, 7 that hatched, we ended up with only 2 cockerels. But these cockerels were in with the bigger hens. We've got a bantam pen and a big chicken pen, and they were ganging up on their dad and really beating him up quite badly. So we just let them out. We said, well, they can take their chances with the fox. And they can just be free-range cockerels. And it turned out they were rather brighter than previous cockerels we've had, because they lasted probably 6 months.
Yeah.
And they were so bright that they decided that they were people, and sort of started hanging out around the back door. And then if they thought you weren't looking, they'd sort of poke their head in and maybe a foot. And then you'd hear sort of scratching on the doormat. What the hell's that? And, heave something at them and they'd leg it. But they then started realizing that as the weather got warmer, we were doing things like leaving windows open, even if we weren't in the house. And a couple of weeks ago, I'd taken the kids for a swim at my parents' place, and I'd come back over. I thought, that's odd. That wasn't there when I left the house. And they'd come in through the bedroom window. One of them was standing on Misha's chest of drawers and was sort of merrily booting things onto the floor, and had smashed a picture frame, and there was all sorts of stuff over the bedroom floor, and some fairly unspeakable things on top of the chest of drawers. Another one had been into the corridor and had booted over a couple of pot plants and was generally threatening to knock decanters over and all that sort of thing. So they have been deported. Their crime being breaking and entering.
You didn't fancy the idea of house chickens then?
No. And so they've been deported to a pheasant pen. And they seem to be surviving so far. The pheasant pen is open. So they
they'll be back.
Well, I'm a bit worried about them finding their way home again, but there is a railway line between us and them, so
well, you've made it tricky for them then.
Yeah, we've made it quite hard.
Yeah,
I mean, you might find it's the chicken version of Operation Spiderweb. If you find sort of strange vehicles parking up around the property, and as dusk falls, the roof pops open and the chickens come flying out to land on your valuable machinery, they're getting their own back.
Yes, well, I hope that doesn't happen, because then they really will be for it. But I'm hoping they make it to the season, that they sort of just come sort of strutting out the bottom of the drive at the end of when the whistle goes, because they do seem to be survivors.
Do you think they would pass on their survival tactics to your release, this year's release?
Well, I hope so.
And then they kind of teach them a few, like, duck and roll, lads. Okay, only go on the first whistle. And
Well, serious note, I hope that they will be instrumental in teaching them to roost. Although the thing is they're not actually in the pen anymore, because the bottom of the wire is still up, because there's no poults in there yet.
Yeah.
And it's rather full of muntjac, I'm told. So we chucked them in the pen. Within 5 minutes, they'd wandered out the bottom. But they've obviously worked out that they need to roost. And so if they are still biffing around when the poults arrive, they'll definitely go in and investigate. And hopefully they will, pass on some wisdom about, if you're in the tree rather than under the tree, the fox is less likely to get you, sort of thing.
Oh, that's brilliant. You're going to have a fairly stiff fine for anybody who blats one of those, aren't you?
Well, I think they probably count as ground game.
So as long as the released population doesn't follow their flying guidelines, you'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. If all the pheasants walk.
There are 500 pheasants have got in through the upstairs bedroom window.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the whole release had just sat there, pheasants in one room, partridge in another?
The first drive will be in the kitchen.
With a
Brilliant.
spud gun.
Please keep us updated on those. That sounds
I'm doing more regular tours of that bit of the farm just to see if I can catch sight of them. But anyway, enough about that. I have got a bone to pick with Avian, because I know he's got news, and it is that he's been moonlighting on another podcast.
I was lured to the dark side, George.
So tell us about it, Avian. What have you been doing?
Yeah, so we spoke, I think last time we were on the Gamekeepers Conference down at Great Fulford, and we were talking about the work Joe and Madden had been doing. Well, after that podcast, I emailed him a couple of times and spoke to Digby and Gemma, and they quite liked what he was doing there and thought it might have a place on Shoot Hub. So we got in touch with him, and he very graciously gave us an hour of his time. So earlier this week, I mean, just to show, so here we are drinking beer and 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday, I remembered. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, which was a bit of a shock for me. But Joe came on and sort of expanded on his research and went into a lot more detail. So it was Gemma and myself. I hope I carried the flag of Guns on Pegs podcast and didn't make too much of an arse of myself and embarrass us. But we had a good hour's chat with him. That one hopefully will be coming out fairly soon. I really enjoyed it. We bit of a deeper dive into the talk he gave at the Bass Gamekeepers. But yeah, it was really, really good. It was quite nice to be on a podcast that had sort of structure and common sense and a professional person at the helm.
The problem being is you turned up with 2 bottles of red wine in front of the camera.
At 9 o'clock in the morning.
This is the only experience I've ever had. So I sort of rocked up in me tweed mankini with a bottle of tequila and thought, well, hey, here we go.
Poor Gemma.
But, no, she marshalled it in her true professional way and kept us on the straight and narrow. But hopefully, check it out. It's on Shoe Hub. Hopefully that'll be quite interesting. There was
I'm really looking forward to listening to it. What else have you been doing, Avian?
A lot.
Well, yes, I mean, George, I have been quite busy, but unlike, by the sounds of things, the rest of you, I feel quite worthy, quite holier than thou. So I've been, I get involved with the BTO, the British Trust for Ornithology Breeding Bird Survey. So in April, we go out and I've got a little mile quadrant. We walk around and we've got to count songbird numbers. And then in a week or so, we go back and do the same quadrant again and count. And that all goes into the National Breeding Bird Survey. I've got Royal Cornwall Show tomorrow. So although I'm going to go and see some of my old muckers from the gin world, I'm also going up, meet some of the chaps from Basque and GWCT, and I'm going to go and doorstep the Cornwall Squirrel Project.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're trying to reintroduce the red squirrel back into Cornwall. Cornwall was traditionally a stronghold of the red before the greys came through. On our little shoot in the woodlands, we do a lot of work with the forestry, trying to keep the numbers under control. So I'm really interested to see what tips and bits they've got for us, try and get some help there. And then we've been doing our cover crops. I'll come back to that in a minute because, God damn it, we did it the hard way. But earlier in the week, I don't know if anyone remembers we were talking about it, but we had Basque down to our little syndicate shoot.
Yeah. Oh, is this you've been hobnobbing with politicians?
I have. Only via Zoom, unfortunately, at this stage. But, and again, we'll keep Chatham House rules because naming names and what have you. But on the back of that visit from Sam Walker at Basque, he asked a few of us on the shoot if we'd be interested in talking to one of the new local MPs in Cornwall. And the MP for the region our shoot is in was very positive and agreed to meet us for an hour on Teams call or Zoom call or whatever. And it was really good, to be honest. I mean, it's always difficult. You never quite know what you're going to get into. You're talking to politicians. It's, something very new for me. You hear a lot of things, will they kiss babies and tell you what you want to hear, and then off they go and do their next thing. Yeah. But in fairness to the MP, she spent a lot of time thinking about what she was getting into beforehand. She was very open with her time. She listened to what we had to say. I made sure that we had a few buzzwords in there, sort of community and mental health care and environment and what have you. But she responded really positively. And I think, in the discussion with her, she's never had experience of shooting, but I think she enjoys fly fishing with her dad. So she is a Cornish woman. She's got a bit of a rural background. I wouldn't say we came away from it thinking that we had a very strong supporter, but I do think we had somebody who was prepared to listen, took a genuine interest in what we had to say, and we tried to put the point to her that, when she asked us towards the end of the conversation, what do we feel the barriers were and what do we feel the threats were? And I think we tried to put across to her that, the threats we felt were that we kind of feel we're on a knife's edge all the time, that nobody's giving us an idea of a future. We're giving this feeling that it could all end tomorrow. But at the same time, we're being asked to do the care of the wild environment. And, that's a commitment of time and it's a long-term thing. And also that, we're trying to develop community with the youngsters and bring people from different walks of life together. And I think she got that and kind of understood that probably we need a seat at the table as a country sports and shooting community. And that, we try to put across to her that we just feel like we're being pushed to the side, that, our experience, our knowledge and our heritage is just poo-pooed. And these bodies with their slick presentations and their million membership list and all the rest of it are taking all the limelight. And I'm hoping that she took away from that we aren't mindless murderers of wildlife, that it's far more nuanced than that. And we are effectively farming the wildlife. We do so much work and put so much effort into restoring habitats and, increasing wild bird breeding numbers and all the other stuff that we all know we do. And I just hope she takes that away. So I think, to put it out there to anybody else in that position, talk to your local NGO, talk to BAS, talk to GWCT. If they've got that opportunity to put you in front of your local representative, do it. Because if we don't go and talk to them, we're never going to get heard. And we need to put it on the front foot a little bit and just let these people know that we're here, this is what we do, and we're proud of it. And it has a massive impact on the wild environment.
And is that was a chat with your currently elected MP rather than one of your choosing?
No, it was the newly elected MP for that particular part of Cornwall. I mean, it was useful that one of the chaps who joined us from the shoot on the team is a constituent. And I think that always helps to do that. And we were very grateful to Sam Walker and the team at Basque for setting it up. We did say to her at the end, she said, "Oh, I've never shot a shotgun in my life. I've never fired a gun. I'd be quite interested." So we jumped in and said, "Well, look, we got a couple of playgrounds. You're always welcome. Maybe we could take you out and in a safe and well-treated environment, have a go." And then Sam Walker stepped in and went, "Oh yes, that reminds me. Of course, we could take you to the Holland and Holland ground. I think they do the Commons and the Lords clay shooting day." And we just thought, yeah, or you could do that.
Ave, what do you reckon the message that your MP is going to take back to the lunch tables of Westminster? When after speaking with you, how's she going to communicate that back away from the scenes, but just over a cup of tea with her peers?
I think in one word, we're serious. I think I'd like her to take away from it that we care about what we're doing. It isn't a one-dimensional, we are the nasty brigade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That we put our time into it, we put our money into it, we put our knowledge into it, and we share that knowledge and that time. And that we are pointing in exactly the same direction as probably all of the other wildlife and environment organizations out there in terms of outcome. We want a better wild part of the country to continue for children, grandchildren, and generations to come, and that we're not this sort of backwards in time, obscure tranche of a time that never was, and we're progressive, and we're taking these things on the chin, and we want it to improve and be better. And if nothing else, if she goes back and because I know she's involved in Cornish fisheries committees and what have you, which may then spin on to other parts of the natural environment. If she's there, she can say, "I've spoken to these people, and they're not always who we think they are, and they're probably worth involving in the broader conversation." So, hopefully, that's what we got for it.
That's fantastic. It sounds to me like the sort of thing that is never going to do any harm. Tell me about the bird survey a bit more. So it's nesting season, chicks hatching right now. We've seen the first brood of wild pheasants on the farm in the last couple of weeks. Quite early, I think, but it's lots of paired up partridges. So with that, are you out looking for nests for what's going on?
No, it's quite interesting. I mean, I think BTO have been doing it for decades now. You can go online and have a look at the accumulated data. So, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers throughout the country. And I don't know how they select them, but they've selected these pretty much square mile quadrants across the UK to basically try and get a flash sample of all sorts of various different habitats, different environments, different areas. And for me, my little quadrant is further down south in Cornwall. And you just turn up. They have a very prescribed way of counting. So I've had to go on birdsong learning courses, and you have a methodology where basically you walk the route and you try and do it at the same time of day every time you go, and you just record the birds you see and hear as you walk along. So basically if you imagine a square mile, and sort of every couple of 100 yards there's a recording point. So as you walk up to that point, anything you hear or see in front of you is counted, and they'll count how far away from you was it? Is it up in the sky half a mile away, or is it in that environment? And then there's a very detailed breakdown of the habitat you're in if it's changed. If farming practices have changed, or the housing estate's gone up, or what have you. And you just work your way round, and then you go back in June. So the birds should then be in full nesting, and then you count the numbers there. So it's what's stayed there to breed, what the breeding numbers are.
And is it all naked eye stuff, or you got binos, or
you have your binos? Because most of the people do it. Like myself, I'm very much an amateur birder, but there are some very, very skillful and serious birders.
I was going to say, are you allowed to? I know we're all fans of the Merlin app. Are you allowed to do it with that as assistance, or?
So to do the survey, they are pretty firm to say don't use Merlin.
Yeah.
But the regional coordinator that put me onto it has said, look, use Merlin, but don't just write down what Merlin says. So if Merlin, as you learn some of the more intricate bird calls and bird songs, or the unusual ones, or things you're not familiar with, if it comes up on Merlin, then try and identify it by sight.
And also count numbers as well, rather than
absolutely. And then you just go along with your pad and paper, and you go, yeah, 52 wrens, 2 blackbirds, a swallow, blah 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 blah,
in a partridge, in a pear tree,
and year on year that data builds up an incredible picture of the breeding birds across the UK.
So, Ave, I'm really pleased on my stud farm there of the amount of skylarks we got this year, and they are, like you just said, a mile high, and you can't pick them; you can only hear them. But birdsong, when you hear them, it reminds me of that 90s kind of rave song, Higher State of Consciousness.
Josh Wink.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the one. And then you start picking it up, and then you hear the robins and the greenfinches and what have you. But it sounds like there's a rave at about 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock every day in my paddocks.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because on the birdsong course I was on, you put me on the spot now. I can't remember exactly what the acronym is, but basically they'll go through the different calls and songs, and it is, you try and describe it. Mm-hmm. So, it's Josh Wink, or, it sounds like a drum kit falling down the stairs, or whatever sticks in your head. And then you try and visualize it. So, is it 3 short bursts and a pause, and then 3 short bursts, song thrush, or is it sort of ascending, or is it descending? And then you try and put a picture to it. So, it's a kid falling off a bicycle or something. So whatever sticks in your head, you've got this 3-stage method of sort of evaluating and picking it out and remembering it.
That's very cool. So I'll tell you, my son Otis, I think, is a born naturalist. He just seems to love it all. And when they were really small, they were given these little Dorling Kindersley books that that play noises at you. And Cassie had one that played sort of Christmas carols for some reason. But Otis was given this one with, I think, a dozen garden birds in it. Brilliant. And it plays the sounds. And he knows them like that. And I was dropping them off at school this morning, and it was raining. We were a little bit early, so we sat in the car, and a chaffinch came and sat on the railing of the fence in front of the car. And he went, "Oh, look, Daddy, a chaffinch." And I went, "Wait, how did you do that?" And it's unbelievable.
Either that, or he just thought, Dad doesn't know. He's not going to question me. I can put him what I want.
Obviously,
he only knows a pigeon, a partridge, and a pheasant.
But obviously, I checked because I was like, he can't possibly have been able to tell. But the birdsong book I have found really useful.
Yes,
because you just push the button and it plays the song, and you match it up with the picture of the bird, and so I now am 1,000 times better than I was even before the kids were born.
And again, George, to carry that on to the next stage, and I've been out with some of these guys. We had a thing with the regional organizer said, "Oh, we should all meet up for a social." So he said, "Oh, we'll go to this pub 7 o'clock, and it'd be lovely to meet." So I checked where the pub was, and I went back on the WhatsApp group with the team and went, "Oh, have I got the date right? Because the pub says it closes at 5 in the evening." And he came back and he went, "Oh, no, we'll meet at 7 a.m. We'll go for a bird listening walk along the canal, and then we'll come back and have our sandwiches in the car park." And I went, "Oh, I'm busy that day." but actually going walking with him, and just the level of knowledge he's got of birdsong. I am a complete amateur, but I reckon I could probably identify 15 or 20 species by birdsong alone. But he could identify hundreds. But he's shown me there's a lot of resource online where you can do self-training, and it runs you through this sort of 3-stage recognition. And then to back up Merlin, there's another website where people from all over the world are making birdsong recordings and sending them in. And there's another section on there because things like starlings in particular will imitate other birds.
Yeah.
Which he said you've got to be a bit careful about that, because that can really screw up your counts if it's doing sort of Western bowerbird because it heard it somewhere else. So, I mean, it's another layer of my nerdiness, but it's
no. Ave, I'm glad you said that, because I've looked up and I've like, oh, what's that? And it could be where the yellowhammer. I haven't seen my yellowhammers for a little while now, and it's probably because the bloody yard cats have chased them out, because they're bloody yard cats. But it's but I thought I heard them the other day, and so I looked around and there's like 20 or 30 starlings flying around, and I'm like, oh, but I didn't know they did that. So yeah, well done, Bill Oddie. Brilliant.
I think I'm more Odd Billy than Bill Oddie.
Actually, pets is an interesting one, Jake, because I don't know if you saw this recently. The Moorland Association shared a graphic on socials. They've been asking gamekeepers to record their interactions with the public.
This was brilliant.
And this blew my mind, and I don't know. Haven't looked into it to see over how many gamekeepers over what area of ground and all this sort of stuff.
Sure.
But in this study, between October 2023 and September 2024, so over a year, they asked people to put their dogs on a lead nearly 10,000 times. 9,658 incidents of having to ask people to put their dogs on a lead. That is mind-blowing.
And that's just gamekeepers.
Yes.
That's not landowners or farmers or tenant farmers or anyone else. That's just the gamekeepers.
Yeah. Well, I think it gives lie to that. There's been the recent win for right to roam, and you look at all the things they've dealt with people, and the ones you might think vandalization or drug dealing or picking magic mushrooms, there's nothing. But litter picking, nearly 6,000 people had to be told to pick up their garbage.
Keeping to footpaths, just over 5,000.
I mean, nearly 2,500 people told to put a fire out. I mean, it is painful, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't want to get too sort of disgusted of Tunbridge Wells about it, but I think the main point is, like, right now is the time when, and I don't know if you saw the video as well of the curlew hen being chased off her nest by a pair of dogs, and then the dogs come back and eat the eggs, and you just think, now is the time. Like, look, if you want to have your dog charging about in December, you're not going to do that much damage. No. But right now, it's 8 weeks, isn't it? Just keep them on.
Yeah, there's probably somebody who on the local Facebook group describes their dogs as being well under control and doesn't need to be on a lead, which really me off. Sorry.
Yeah, and if we're getting at it, all of us, have been around dogs all our lives. We all train our dogs to a standard, and we all understand. Just keep your dogs on a lead. They will get exercise. Do some lead training. Do something which keeps them engaged. Not all dogs need to just run around the countryside and never come back to their name because little Pookums is just a Bichon Frise and is allowed to well run. Just guys, let's just be sensible for a bit.
Jake,
give
breathe.
Everyone,
Jake.
everyone opportunity.
Well, but also,
listen, it irritates me.
Yeah.
Listen, there will be some people listening to this who will think, well, I've got a well-trained gun dog and the recall's good, and I know about the countryside, it's fine. But I think a practical solution of this, and I don't say this just because we have one on the farm, there are lots of fenced dog walking paddocks around that you can go and you can let the dog charge around to its heart content. A lot of them have got agility training equipment, or you can do a bit of recall training. You can do a bit of retrieval training, keep them interested, or you can just let them blast around. But you can be reasonably confident that there's no ground nesting birds in that field. They're clean, they're safe.
Absolutely,
they're
brilliant.
If you really do feel the need to let your dog off the lead,
quite right,
go and do that.
Go to one of those. And that's exactly it. It's that we've just had one open in the village. It's £9 an hour for 3 dogs. It is brilliant, and the amount of the reduction, in accidents, dog on dogs at the local rec park is dramatically dropped. And equally on the heath, Newmarket Heath, after 12 o'clock every day, everyone's allowed on there. And the amount of fights and dog attacks on other dogs you hear about. Now this little park thing, people are going there regularly.
Yep.
If you've got space and you're in an area that hasn't had one, you want to diversify in the corner of your farm, have a look into setting one of these up. It's licensed to print you some money because they're so well attended.
I'll take your point, George. I think what's perhaps underlies all of this is that, everybody wants to be out in nature. Everybody, we're a nation of animal lovers apparently, and everybody wants to be close to nature. But I mean, I'm sure we've all seen recently that videos are cropping up on YouTube as we come into spring, where I saw the one the other day where there's a young Rodo who's clearly got a fawn in the long grass.
Oh, this is with the fox. Yeah.
God, yeah.
And the fox is there, and the woman recording it saying, "Oh, these two have been friends forever. Oh, this is how nature should be." And you're like, how have we got to a point where you can't see that for what it actually is, for
Disney
nature, red in tooth and claw? And it's Disney, but it is this, my dog can't do any harm. And, when they run their dogs through the pheasant pens and they go, he's just having fun. It's like, no.
Yeah. So I think that's the key takeaway for this episode of the podcast, I think, is for the next 6 weeks, keep your dogs on a lead.
Keep your dogs on leads. Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Or go to a dog walking field.
And then go mad.
And work on your recall in the dog walking field.
Yeah. Right, chaps, I think we had better talk about grand days out, not grand day out or grand out days. Grand day out.
Grand days.
There seems to be more than one. So,
is that your second Moscow mule?
The grand day out.
And I think next time we're going to do days out for Gran. Where to take your granny.
Okay.
Well, I think before we go into this one, I'd just like to give a quick shout out for one Sam suggested a while back. Was Hunting UK with Phil Beasley, who does his pigeon days. It was in the back of my mind. I've got a favour to repay to a mate of mine who was very generous last season. So I remember what Sam had said for the Grand Day Out, had a chat with Phil, what he doesn't know about pigeon shooting, just in a 10-minute phone call, completely blew my mind. So I've booked, it's 350 quid for two of us in a hide. I said to him, so will you just set the hide up and then leave us to it? And he went, we'll be all over you like a rash. He said, you'll go home knackered. You'll have learnt so much. So really looking forward to that. So,
brilliant.
We're taking our own advice there.
Very good. Well, I think we've only got the one this week. And I picked it out, and it is at St Mary's Isle, which is in Dumfries and Galloway. It's a beautiful coastal shoot, views of the Dee Valley and the Solway Firth, family run. They've recently taken it back in hand. They do a lot of sort of driven I think they do quite a lot of trips. So you go and do a couple of days, driven days. But I noticed, just as I was biffing around the website a couple of days ago, they're offering some walked up days at £200 per gun.
Wow.
Now, I imagine they're not massive walked up days. I think you're going to have to work for it. And the bag's not going to be huge. It's going to be pheasants, partridge, a few duck. They're a coastal shoot, so in those sort of situations, there's going to be plenty of species about, all sorts around. So I think it'll be a really interesting day shooting. I remember writing email content for the Guns on Pegs newsletter about this shoot years ago, and thinking it looks fantastic. And the
scenery up there is just the scenery is just absolutely stunning.
But I mean, at 200 quid a day, you could afford to stay somewhere quite nice overnight, and for your grand, you could almost stay at the Savoy and still be within the grand budget.
What are the reviews? What are the reviews like on Guns on Pegs, George?
Yeah, the reviews are good. There's a lot there. I think there's a dozen or so reviews, and they're all really, really positive. I think mainly talking about the driven days, but if they can put a driven day, they'll do a decent.
But looking at their driven days, their 200 bag days, all right, they're over £1,000. They're 13.25, but they do describe them as flexible. So whether you'd be able to get something under £1,000 or share a peg with a mate, and then it'd be under £1,000.
Yeah.
Or you just take you and 4 friends and you've gone for your grand and you're on the walks up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I can guarantee you, for someone that does walks up shooting,
You'd have a lot of fun.
You would have a lot of fun for, you know, and you can repay your pegs back for that. That's a really nice little thing.
And I think for
Right,
you know,
George.
that sort of backdrop, that sort of scenery, I mean, just what an amazing place to have access to and go for a walk. And you know, I always think with walked up days, you never really want too big a bag, because you've got to carry the damn stuff back with you, haven't you? So you don't want to go up and blat 8 geese and find you've got 50 stone of goose to carry back on your back.
And you could afford to have a drink with your host the night before, couldn't you, Jake?
I think you could, yes.
I'm not going
You
to
can hang up your lifer and man up wet pants and have a beer with your guest.
Park your bike and have a pint.
Your bike.
Sorry, you said park it.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Right,
Well,
gentlemen.
there we
So there's one last little bit of business we do need to do. Village notices, which is that the next episode of the Guns on Pegs podcast will be with Ollie Medforth of Raisthorpe Gin, Raisthorpe Flyers, and we are going to be talking about the podcast plans for the game fair. Now, I'm going to keep all that powder dry, but I do just want to highlight that we will be running the Shooting Heroes competition again. If you recall, last year we asked people to send in their nominations for people who go above and beyond to promote shooting outside of the shooting world, outside of people who would naturally be involved in trying to do a bit of outreach for what we do and why we do it. So what we would like people to do again this year is to send in their nominations for people who deserve recognition for the work that they do. It can be on a grand scale or on a small scale to help promote shooting. And the prize will be, as it was last year, a day's shooting. Now, there are some details to thrash out there, but we are hoping that we are going to be able to take more than one person on this this day's shooting. If you remember last year, there was one listener who agreed to fund the peg for the winner. We have had a second volunteer, and last year's volunteer have stepped up to the plate to
That's brilliant.
to fund that again. So we are looking for both people who would like to contribute to the prize fund and for people to nominate their shooting heroes. So all of those nominations, or if you want to be involved on the funding side, drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com. And I think what we'll do is those who contribute towards the funding, if you sponsor a peg, then we'll ask you to buy your own peg on the day as well, and we'll have put a team together is the idea. So we'll have 4 heroes and 4 sponsors on the day, and we'll probably turn up and heckle or something as well.
You can bet your bottom dollar we'll do that.
We can be beating or picking up or something, can't we?
Yeah, that's
He'll
exactly.
be there in his cycling shorts giving out the cream egg Baileys, wouldn't he?
100%.
He just won't be there for a pint the night before, that's all.
No, absolutely.
Because he'll be training.
Oh, you boys.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, chaps. Thank you very much again. So I think we had better wrap it up. So before we go, in addition to nominating your shooting heroes, as a final reminder that you can get your hands on a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters by sending us your shooting dilemmas for us to resolve, or by sending your unpopular opinions, your forgotten drives, your podcast suggestions. Drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we read it out in any future episodes, we will send you some garters. Don't forget to keep adding your challenge avians as well. He's got a big long-term project, but he needs a short-term project.
Thank you, George.
But for now, that's your lot. Chris and I will be back, as I said, in a couple of weeks with Ollie Medforth. But for now, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.
Wow.